When I first became the Secretary General in 1981, the first thing one of the older Secretary Generals had told the previous Secretary General was to read everything in the archives, to learn everything I could about it. So every night after work, I had no chance during working time because I was kept busy doing the ordinary secretarial work. So every night after tea, I'd come down here and take out an envelope a night and read it until about 9:30 or 10, maybe 10 o'clock, all depended how tired I was. And I was doing that for a few weeks, and I thought, well, this is ridiculous. These letters are wonderful. Why can't all the rest of the sisters enjoy them as well?
And the first ones were these ones here that go back in the 1870s to Mrs. Elthwaite, Marie-Louise Elthwaite in Auckland. She was a French woman who'd married and the Englishman, and she came out at about 1841 to New Zealand. So these are really important. They're all in French, and some of them have been water damaged, and so they were lovely. And then the other ones was the sister showed me her little booklets and got into that and realised that these letters were wonderful. So there was the letters in French, and then there were the letters per se. And that's when I started to think it would be really good if some of these letters could come out in a book.
Well, we wanted a biography first. We felt that a biography had to be written about Suzanne Aubert before we could even approach Rome about the cause.
Now, the letters of Suzanne do help us with the cause. They provide us with primary evidence for various facts that we have to ratify in the Positio. For instance, there's this letter that she wrote to Father Yarden from Auckland, and it's the 20th of January 1871. She's able to say the date, the 18th of December, when the new bishop arrived. She gives the bishop a name, he's Bishop Croke, and the companion that the bishop was with, Mr. John Campbell. So it's all there. She also documents really well her meeting with Bishop Croke. She would have been a very feisty lady, and she was on about her mission, and that was to be with the Maori people, to offer them education in the best possible way. But the bishop wasn't into that, and so she was really pushing her cause, and he'd hardly had time to get off the boat, and she was knocking on the door. So you can imagine her urgency and Bishop Croke sort of trying to even settle into the country. And she's saying, you know, my Lord, since I'm in charge of the Maori children, I simply wish to know where I stand and to receive, you know, your Lordship's blessing. So she wasn't sort of saying, I'm wanting to do this Maori mission, I just want your blessing. I've got everything in line, I've got the money, I've got the land, etc. We're going to build a school. And she gets this dramatic shock, saying, well, you know, that's not going to happen. But the letter, it just gives you all this dialogue, which gives us the evidence of why she then needed to leave Auckland and go to the Hawke's Bay. And it's beautifully crafted, so you not only get the evidence within the letter, you've got facts. Sure, some of it's from Suzanne's perspective of probably a very disappointed, angry person who's not able to see further her call, as she sees from God, to carry on the mission in Auckland. But it's a wonderful resource.
Letters on the Go is a means of sharing the treasures that we have in the archives with the people of New Zealand and further afield. Even though it's a tome of a book, we will manage to get it to France, to our friends in Lyon, to the friends that we have in Rome. We managed to get the story of Suzanne Aubert handed over to the Pope personally by our Archbishop, and we probably will twist his arm to take the second volume.
And it was the talk of just women and true life, and the more I read these letters, it came on me as a way that this is not what I was expecting a Mother Superior to be writing, and this continued all the way through to her death. She was writing to children, she was writing to families and supporters, and even when she was at the same time writing great big long intelligent well thought out petitions to Parliament. She'd also be writing saying, can you bring Lily down on the boat and make sure that when she arrives in Wanganui that someone meets her at the station and takes them to Mrs. Giorgetti's place. And from Mrs. Giorgetti's she's going to be sent to Palmerston North to Mrs. Aramburu's. And she has planned and caring for people in the tiny minutiae. Some people said she probably didn't delegate enough. But these letters are full of life across a whole spectrum. Yes, a whole palette is what I was thinking of.
Yeah, Suzanne, her values do come through in her letters, and some of her values are her interest in the Maori, how she was able to support them. And she always remained interested in them right through her whole life.
This is the only scrap that still is of what exists from her father on one side and her mother on the other side. And it was in one of these books. It crops up. Now and then we find precious little things that crop up as bookmarks. The only thing we have surviving that comes in that she wrote to her family in France are these 2 letter cards she wrote in 1895 to her brother in France. And she wrote them on 2 separate New Zealand letter cards, which must have been quite early on in New Zealand postal history. And she did that because both their sons, Camille and Louis, were collecting stamps. And so she's written it, so there they are with the New Zealand letter cards and the stamps on it, so that each boy would have his stamp and he didn't have to share it with his brother. And then you have the letters that go from her when she'd arrived in Hawke's Bay back to the Outhwaite family in Auckland, who were sort of her replacement family. They'd taken her into their home when she was ill and at the end of when things fell apart in Auckland. And then she left to go down to the Marist family. So the letters going to the Outhwaite family and the letters going to the Marists back in France. So those are sort of, if you like, they're collections within collections. And then when she gets to Jerusalem, she's still writing back to France. But from then the sisters, the congregation has been established in the mid-1880s. So from then on, she's starting to write in English. And you've got her little peculiarities of writing in English. We were used to these, what I call the Mother Bossy Hen letters. And they were very quick and to the point. And often she listed them, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, 1, you may put flowers around the altar, but make sure there's no mud. You know, 2, do not hit the children, because that way that they will think that the aunties can be imitated and have no patience. 3, you know very well that you shouldn't use the butter, etc. And 4, this is the spiritual intention for the month, because that also would be enclosed. Yes, a spiritual intention would be enclosed.